Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. On the channel we post writing tips, unboxings, book hauls, book reviews and the occasional vlog. And today I have another book review for you and it is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collin. I was so excited when this book came out. I adored The Hunger Games. I should do a reread of that at some point. I was very happy to return to this world and it didn't disappoint. I had a brilliant time. As always, with my book reviews, I'll read you guys the blurb first. Before we get into that, don't forget if you like what you see to subscribe to this channel. Your continuous support means a lot, so thank you guys so much. Blurby blurb. As the day dawns on the 50th annual Hunger Games, fear grips the districts of Panem. This year, in honour of the quarter quail, twice as many tributes will be taken from their homes. Back in District 12, Hamish Abernathy is trying not to think too hard about his chances. All he cares about is making it through the day and being with the girl he loves. When Hamish's name is called, he can feel all his dreams break. He's torn from his family and his love and is shuttled to the capital with the 3 other District 12 tributes. A young friend who's nearly a sister to him, a compulsive odds maker, and the most stuck-up girl in town. As the games begin, Hamish understands he's been set up to fail, but there's something in him that wants to fight, and have that fight reverberate far beyond the deadly arena. This is the story of Hamish, who in the Hunger Games is our tribute's, watcher, teacher. He's going to be, and this isn't a spoiler because we already know this from the Hunger Games, the first and only winner from District 12 of the Hunger Games, and therefore teaches Katniss Everdeen in the Hunger Games series. So we return to Panem. We finally are getting the story of what happened to Hamish, what made him an alcoholic, what made him just give up entirely until Katniss sort of pulled him out of this and forced him to try to help. On the back it does say, when you've been set up to lose everything you love, or what is there left to fight for? And this is the Waterstones exclusive edition. It's a very purple. I'm sort of disappointed it doesn't have sprayed edges. You know I'm a sucker for that. But inside is a snake. And I did like the foiling. We have red foiling on purple here under the dust jacket, which was very pretty. Inside we actually have some quotes from other books. So from George Orwell, all propaganda is lies, even when one is telling the truth. I don't think this matters so long as one knows what one is doing and why. William Blake, a truth that's told with bad intent beats all the lies you can invent. David Hume, nothing appears more surprising to those who consider human affairs with a philosophical eye than the easiness with which the many are governed by the few, and the implicit submission with which men resign their own sentiments and passions to those of their rulers. When we inquire by what means this wonder is effected, we shall find that, as force is always on the side of the governed, the governors have nothing to support them but opinion. If it is therefore an opinion only that government is founded, and this maxim extends to the most despotic and most military governments, as well as the most free and most popular. And finally, also David Hume, that the sun will not rise tomorrow is no less intelligible as proposition, and implies no more contradiction than the affirmation that it will rise. Suzanne Collin. The Hunger Games were written before this, but take part after this. Wrote those books as sort of a warning about the government. She is really quite explicit on the evilness of governments, of countries, of putting people against each other and sort of distracting the world from the true evil, which in the Hunger Games is Snow. And instead of them being angry at the capital and at Snow and uniting to destroy this one evil, they are put against each other and therefore hate each other instead, and it's all just about survival. But when the Hunger Games came out, a lot of people just saw it as a fun YA with a love triangle, which was not Suzanne Collin's sort of vibe. And I kind of feel that in here. So the Hunger Games is brutal, as was the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. All brutal stories, all had romance in. I feel like this one is Suzanne Collins just being like, fuck this. I'm going to make it really obvious to you what I'm trying to say. So this one is definitely, in my opinion, the most brutal of the Hunger Games books. This does not hold back. It's really good. And it was very fun as well to see more intricacy in the characters that are in the Hunger Games. We learn a lot more about Effie Trinket, about the other tributes. It's really fascinating and, as I said, brutal. It really pushes home. But at the same time as it's brutal, it's still a YA, very easy, fast-paced read. As always, I'll go into my quotes from this book first, and then we'll go into my overall review. Page 5. Happy birthday, Hamish. I figure if you're old enough to make it, you're old enough to drink it. I have to agree. And though I'm not a drinker myself, I'm glad to get the bottle. I can easily sell it or trade it. This is great foreshadowing of Hamish and his future drinking problems. This is Hamish working in the black market. He makes alcohol, or helps to make alcohol. And because it's his birthday, which unfortunately for Hamish is on the day of the reaping, he's gifted this bottle, but Hamish doesn't drink. It just makes it more sad that you know he's going to. Page 45. In 50 years, we've only had one victor, and that was a long time ago. A girl who no one seems to know anything about. This is a really good link to the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, because Hamish is actually the second victor from District 12. However, if you have not read A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, skip to this time here because this is a spoiler. But as we know, in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, District 12 wins and they are the first victor of District 12. Snow changes the entirety of how the Hunger Games works. However, they do not stay in District 12. They escape the district or die. We don't actually know at the end what happens to her fully, but I liked this link back to that book. Page 54. Maisie threw a fit over hers, saying a mockingjay was an ugly old thing, and why couldn't Tom Amber melt it down and make her something pretty like a lullaby? Here we're seeing Katniss's token basically appearing, and it is Maisie's sister, I believe, in the Hunger Games that gives this token to Katniss before the reaping. On page 110, we get to meet Beetee, and Beetee's backstory is so brutal, but also it was good to see what made Beetee and Hamish and the other tributes. Obviously, we know why they were against the Capitol, but this one really hits it home to why they are trying to take down the Capitol. Page 171. The cheap fabric really holds the smell of fear sweat that we've been pumping out. I like this showing and this recognition of the smell of fear sweat. It does have a different smell, and I enjoyed that different take on showing how scared all of these tributes are. And finally, page 201. He sighs when he mentions the tools that were abolished and incapacitated in the past, ones deemed fated to destroy humanity because of their ability to replicate any scenario using any person. And in mere seconds, he snaps his fingers to emphasize their speed. I guess it was the right thing to do given our natures. We almost wiped ourselves out even without them. Is this Suzanne Collins sort of having a little go at AI? Because AI does copy in seconds our features and voices. I don't know if that's true, but that's what it felt like to me. That's it for my quotes from this book. As I said, I didn't want to, even though we know the ending of this, I didn't want to give too much away. And as always, it is a YA. I don't tend to take as many quotes from YAs because they tend to be a lot faster paced and it would give away too much of the story, even though we kind of know how the story goes. We also don't to an extent, and it is brutal, really brutal. And it's going to sound really odd when I've just told you how brutal this is, that it was really nice returning to the Hunger Games and death and torture. I had a good time watching people die one by one. Yeah, it's very Final Destination, isn't it? It was really interesting to learn the backstories of characters from the Hunger Games. And I also really enjoyed finding the nuggets and references to the other books by Suzanne Collins. So I highly recommend it. It really feels like Suzanne Collins is really being like, look, ignore the love triangles, ignore the romance, This is about Parliament and government and brainwashing and propaganda. It really is. It's a book kind of to learn from and to really remember what propaganda is, what propaganda does, and also to look out for those distraction techniques that governments do and are using. It's a very good read. So for enjoyment, I gave it 10 out of 10. Writing style 10, plot 9, world building 10, characterization 10, representation 10, and originality 8. The reason originality is down a bit, I mean technically it should be down a bit lower, because it's basically returning to the Hunger Games. You know, it's not a new idea. However, it is Suzanne Collin's idea. Overall, I gave this 5 stars out of 5. I had a thoroughly good time. I think Suzanne Collins has developed the story. It is a lot more brutal. It's a lot more blatant. It really foreshadows everything that does happen in the future books. It has nuggets of those books. It was very well written, and although it is fun to return to the Hunger Games, it is still brutal. It is still really pushing a more complicated and real part of society and something that we are dealing with currently in a YA context. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend reading it, even if you sort of have fallen out with the Hunger Games, got a bit bored of it. Read this one. If you haven't read the Hunger Games, I think you could read this first if you wanted to. You just won't get the little nuggets linking to the others, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. You could read this one. You could read them in order of the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, then this one, then the Hunger Games, because that is the chronological order of the dates in these books. I might actually give that a try. I really do want to reread the Hunger Games, knowing this backstory and also knowing Snow's backstory from the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, to see how that changes how I read them. We'll maybe give that a go. And that's it for this book review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you'd like to see as soon as I upload, click that little bell down below. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr. I post bookish pictures as well as my writing tips and unboxings on there. And thanks for watching, guys. Bye!